Have you ever, like, completely misunderstood a piece of art or music only to discover that the real meaning is, far more fascinating than your initial guess?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it
Yeah.
happens to the best of us, right? We just project our own stuff onto it.
Right. Well, imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the trees outside your window are entirely made of rayon.
Wow, okay. Rayon trees, that's quite a visual.
Yeah, and the breeze hitting your face feels like latex,
Yeah.
and the food you're eating is essentially rubber. You'd probably think you were trapped in some bizarre dystopian simulation.
Or a really terrible sci-fi movie.
Exactly. But in 1978, a teenager looked around her city and realized this wasn't science fiction at all. It was actually already happening.
Which is, frankly, a pretty profound realization to have. Especially when you're young and you're, like, really paying close attention to the physical makeup of your everyday reality.
Yeah, most of us just don't do that.
Yeah. No, we don't. We just accept the materials around us as a given. But there are these certain historical pivot points where the entire texture of the world changes almost overnight.
And that is exactly the mission for our deep dive today. Okay, let's unpack this. We are going to decode the striking, surreal, and like almost suffocating imagery of a very specific track.
Mhm.
The song is The Day the World Turned Day-Glo by the legendary punk band X-Ray Spex. It was released on EMI Records.
A classic. It really is.
It's so good. But to get to the bottom of what this song is actually trying to tell us, we're relying on two main sources. We have the lyrics of the song itself and a really revealing retrospective interview with the band's singer, Poly Styrene, from Mojo magazine.
Right, because when you just read these lyrics on the page without any context at all, it sounds like an absolute chaotic fever dream.
Oh, totally. A complete fever dream. But the goal of this deep dive is to look past that initial chaos, right?
Exactly. We are going to examine a pivotal cultural shift through the lens of this single, incredibly vibrant song. Poly Styrene was documenting a moment in time when society was fundamentally swapping out the building blocks of the human environment.
Yeah, but before we can understand what the song is actually about, we kind of need to address what everyone assumed it was about back then.
Right, the big misconception.
Exactly. When this track dropped and people heard these bizarre lyrics, there was this massive immediate consensus about what was going on in Poly Styrene's head.
Yeah, there was a very strong assumption, and Poly Styrene herself had to address it later. In that interview with Mojo magazine, she noted, most people thought the song was about tripping.
Which, I mean, looking at the lyrics is an incredibly logical conclusion to jump
It's
to.
completely. It makes total sense why they'd think that.
Right, because if you are a listener in the late 1970s and you put this record on, you are immediately hit with this barrage of warped, totally nonsensical imagery. Let's look at the very first verse.
Okay, let's hear it.
She sings, I clambered over mounds and mounds of polystyrene foam and fell into a swimming pool filled with fairy snow.
Wow. Fairy snow.
I know. And then as the song progresses, she describes driving a polypropylene car on wheels of sponge and pulling into a fast food wimpy bar to eat a rubber bun.
What's fascinating here is how perfectly those cartoonish, exaggerated images mimic the exact mechanisms of a hallucinogenic experience.
Oh, for sure.
When someone is, experiencing a chemical trip, their sensory perception is fundamentally altered. The scale of things is completely warped.
Yeah, like suddenly you aren't just walking down the street.
Right, you are clambering over giant, unnatural mountains of foam. Hard industrial objects like tires feel suspiciously soft like wheels of sponge.
Yeah.
And mundane, everyday activities like eating a hamburger suddenly feel deeply unnatural, as if you were chewing on a rubber bun. She's basically utilizing the exact language of sensory distortion.
Yeah, it's like the lyrics operate like a funhouse mirror.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. You look into them, and the world has been out of shape, the textures are totally wrong, and the colors are just unnerving. So it's the easiest answer in the world for a music critic or a fan to say, okay, a psychedelic drug reference.
Right, easy conclusion.
Yeah.
But it is fundamentally incorrect.
Entirely incorrect.
Entirely. Poly Styrene was explicitly clear in her Mojo interview that she was not writing about a drug experience at all. She was completely sober, wide awake, and simply observing the street in front of her.
Okay, but if she is wide awake, what exactly is she looking at? Because you don't just trip and fall into a pool of fairy snow in a normal neighborhood,
No, you definitely don't.
If this isn't a hallucination, how do we explain this weirdly specific, almost clinical terminology? It just feels too precise to be A wild, imaginative trip. Where in the real world do you find sponge wheels and a rubber bun?
You find them in the aggressive, lab-created terraforming of the modern world.
Whoa, terraforming, I like that.
That is the transition we have to make to understand this source material. We have to move from the illusion of drugs to the reality of her true inspiration. Her reality wasn't being distorted by a chemical in her brain. Reality itself was being distorted by synthetic chemicals in factories.
Oh, wow. So she is basically reading us the inventory of a chemical supply catalog.
Exactly.
I mean, the sheer volume of synthetic materials she explicitly names in the song is staggering. She takes her own stage name from Poly Styrene foam.
Right, Poly Styrene.
And she sings about nylon curtains. She mentions peering through Perspex window panes down at the acrylic road. She drives the polypropylene car. She feels a latex breeze and watches synthetic fiber see-through leaves falling from rayon trees.
It's an incredible list, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, notice the progression of that list.
Progression? How so?
Well, she isn't just cataloging random items in a house. She is constructing an entirely artificial replacement ecosystem.
Oh, I see. It's a complete takeover.
Precisely. She begins with domestic objects, nylon curtains, Perspex window panes, a polypropylene car. But by the time she gets to the later verses, the synthetic invasion has conquered the natural world itself.
Right, the outdoors.
The very air moving past her is a latex breeze. The foliage isn't organic, it's synthetic fiber. The trees are spun from rayon. She is describing a world where biology has been completely eradicated and replaced by extruded plastics.
That is, yeah, and it's all happening under this incredibly harsh clinical lighting, too. She sings, "The X-rays were penetrating through the latex breeze."
Such a powerful line.
It's such a sterile image. It makes the entire world sound like it's trapped on a slide under a giant medical microscope. It strips away any romance, any natural warmth, and exposes the cold, hard chemical structure underneath.
Because X-rays reveal the invisible truth. By deploying that specific image, she's pointing out that beneath the colorful, shiny surface of modern life, there's no organic mystery left.
It's just all manufactured.
Right. If you X-ray a natural forest, you see the complex, chaotic density of living wood and sap. But if you X-ray this new Day-Glo world, you just see uniform, manufactured polymer structures.
Okay, but I struggle to see how anyone wouldn't view a latex breeze as a total nightmare. I mean, that sounds suffocating.
It does sound suffocating to us today.
So I have to challenge the premise that she's just a passive observer here. This is a punk song, right? Punk is famously anti-establishment, cynical, and highly critical of mass consumerism.
Very true.
Are you absolutely sure she wasn't writing a punk rock protest against pollution? Because rayon trees and a rubber bun sound like a massive, cynical warning about an artificial world that is literally choking us.
Your assumption is entirely logical. And honestly, it's the exact trap many modern listeners fall into when they hear this track today.
Really, a trap.
Yes. Because we hear the word plastic, and we immediately think of overflowing landfills, microplastics in the ocean, and environmental collapse.
Yeah, that's exactly where my mind went.
But this brings us to the most surprising revelation from the Mojo magazine interview. It completely dismantles the idea that this song is a pure dystopian protest.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because her actual opinion on all this artificiality is a massive contradiction to the horror story we just painted.
It is a massive contradiction. When Poly Styrene was asked about this synthetic takeover, she did not view the shift as a nightmare. She explicitly told Mojo magazine it was a great time, people were discovering things with technology.
That is just wild to me.
I know.
The person who wrote the phrase synthetic fiber see-through leaves is on the record saying it was a great time. It completely short-circuits the modern environmental lens we try to force onto the song.
It does. But she provided a deeply personal historical context that explains exactly why she felt that way.
Right.
In the interview, she told the journalist, "I grew up in a generation where all we had was brown paper bags in the local store, but gradually everything became more colorful. Day-Glo symbolized the shift from natural to synthetic."
Let's really dig into that brown paper bag reality for a second, because I think it's the key to the whole mystery.
Absolutely.
She grew up in post-war Britain. This was an era defined by extreme austerity. The country was recovering from a devastating war. Rationing had been a reality for years, and the material world was fundamentally drab.
Very drab.
The natural materials they had access to weren't glamorous at all. We aren't talking about luxurious silk or fine linen here. We are talking about heavy, scratchy wools, plain, undyed cottons, muted colors, and literal brown paper bags.
It was an environment of utilitarian survival. The natural world, for the working class in post-war Britain, was heavily associated with hard labor, drab aesthetics, and high maintenance.
And then suddenly the chemical laboratories open their doors and out pours Day-Glo.
Right, this explosion of color.
We are talking about neon pinks, electric blues, lime greens, colors that literally do not exist in nature. You can only get Day-Glo by mixing artificial pigments in a lab.
And the visual impact of that cannot be overstated. It was a celebrated explosion of color. But it wasn't just an aesthetic upgrade either. It was a profound shift in practical daily life.
How so?
Well, the synthetic revolution brought a technological convenience that radically altered domestic labor. Poly Styrene goes on in the Mojo interview to break down the human benefit of this shift. She notes, we weren't buying cotton anymore, but bry nylon.
Bry nylon.
Yeah.
To someone who has spent their whole life wearing scratchy wool, a branded, lab-created word like bry nylon must have sounded like something straight out of the space race.
Oh, it represented the future. Completely. And why were working class families so eager to buy bry nylon instead of natural cotton? Poly Styrene gives the exact purely functional reason. She said, bry nylon you could wear to school and your mom didn't have to iron it.
Oh, wow. That one sentence completely rewrites the entire context of the song for me.
Doesn't it? It grounds this massive, sweeping macroeconomic shift into a deeply human reality. We tend to talk about the dawn of the plastic age in terms of global supply chains and petroleum refinement.
Yeah, these big abstract concepts.
Right. But for Poly Styrene and her family, the synthetic revolution was about her mother being liberated from standing over a hot ironing board for hours every week.
Transitioning from natural cotton to brie nylon was essentially like upgrading from a horse to a car.
That's a great analogy.
Think about the mechanics of it. Cotton is a natural absorbent fiber. When you wash it, the fibers swell, bend, and crease. It requires constant, heavy physical labor washing, wringing, hanging, ironing, just to make it look presentable.
Exactly. It's exhausting.
But brie nylon. Synthetics are basically hardware. They are smooth, extruded plastic polymer chains. They don't absorb water the same way. You wash them, and they literally just bounce back into their original manufactured shape.
You wash it, hang it up, and wear it to school the next day. It was a miracle of modern science hanging right there in the wardrobe. The synthetic revolution was viewed as liberation from drudgery.
This totally reframes the rubber bun at the Wimpy Bar, too. A Wimpy Bar was an early fast food chain, right?
Yes, exactly.
If you view a rubber bun through the lens of a food critic, it's a dystopia. But if you view it through the lens of someone escaping the brown paper bag era, it's the democratization of luxury.
Oh, absolutely.
It's cheap, standardized, convenient food that you didn't have to cook yourself. The artificiality wasn't a bug, it was the feature.
Which raises an important question about how we judge historical art and how we project our current anxieties onto the past. If you look at the day the world turned Day-Glo, solely through our modern understanding of microplastics and ecological disaster, you entirely miss the artist's original intent.
You miss the excitement. You miss the fact that crossing over into the artificial age felt like a massive relief.
Poly Styrene wasn't writing a tragic protest song. She was acting as an observational documentary filmmaker, standing on the street corner, pointing at the world and saying, look at how bizarre, how bright, and how entirely fake everything is getting. And look at how much we love the convenience of it.
It's a brilliant capture of a very complex, contradictory human emotion. It is the realization that the world is becoming profoundly unnatural, coupled with the deep, unapologetic enjoyment of that unnaturalness. It's knowing the wheels of sponge and the synthetic tires are completely alien to the natural world, but enjoying the smoother car ride anyway.
And that is exactly why the language of a psychedelic trip was the only vocabulary the public had to describe the song.
Oh, right, because it's so new.
Yes, to a generation that grew up in the austere, natural brown paper bag era, this new synthetic world did feel like a hallucination. The sheer shock of the Day-Glo colors and the alien textures of polyurethane and latex were deeply disorienting. Poly Styrene captured that disorientation perfectly without passing moral judgment on it.
So what does this all mean? Like, for us today, if we pull back from post-war Britain and look at the source material as a whole, what is the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive?
Wow.
To me, it is the realization that this song is a vibrant, chaotic time capsule. It captures the exact, razor-thin historical moment when society willingly and eagerly traded the difficult authenticity of the natural world for the bright, easy convenience of the artificial age.
I agree completely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of your life today, the impact of Poly Styrene's observation becomes even more resonant. Right now, you are surrounded by the exact ecosystem she described, but you don't even see it.
It is completely invisible to us.
It is. The acrylic she was staring at in 1978 is the exact same synthetic material making up the activewear you might have in your closet right now.
Wow, yeah.
You likely slept on a mattress containing polyurethane foam. You walk on synthetic flooring and type on extruded plastic keys. We live entirely inside the replacement ecosystem she was documenting. But for us, it isn't shocking. It isn't Day-Glo. It is just the baseline reality.
We don't have the contrast of the brown paper bags to make the neon look bright anymore.
Precisely. What makes Poly Styrene a brilliant artist is that she captured the exact day that this artificiality felt brand new and shocking. She froze the moment when a nylon curtain wasn't just a boring piece of home decor, but a strange, surreal artifact of a rapidly approaching future.
Yeah.
She reminds us that the mundane things we take for granted were once considered absolute miracles of convenience.
She forces us to look at our own world with X-ray vision again, to strip back the familiarity and realize just how much of our environment is a deliberate chemical construct, and to remember why we chose to build it that way. We didn't build it to destroy the world. We built it because it was colorful, and it meant we didn't have to iron our clothes.
That tension between the creeping unnaturalness of a new technology and the undeniable convenience it brings is what makes the core theme of this song so timeless. We're constantly making that exact same trade-off generation after generation.
Yeah, that's so true.
We trade the natural for the synthetic, the authentic for the artificial, because the friction of the natural world is simply too hard to maintain when an easier option appears.
And history doesn't stop. The synthetic revolution of the 1970s was about swapping cotton for plastic. But today, the shifts are happening in the digital and cognitive realms.
Absolutely.
The materials change, but that human impulse to seek out the colorful, the convenient, and the artificial remains exactly the same.
Which leaves you with a critical question to mull over as you navigate your own world today. Think about the latest technological shift happening right now in your own life. What is your modern equivalent of bright nylon? Whether that new thing, perhaps a powerful AI tool, a new piece of automated software, or a synthetic way you communicate that seems incredibly artificial, maybe even a little bit alien or unnerving, yet brings a convenience to your life that you simply cannot resist.
Yeah.